Crocodile attacks, whether deadly or not, can occur due to hunting, self-defense, or mistaken identity. These expert predators excel in water and land, often waiting below the surface to ambush their prey. They swiftly subdue targets, dragging them into deeper water to drown or mutilate. Understanding their behavior is crucial for safe coexistence. Here are 6 gripping animal attack stories. In 2012, Sarah Williams became enthralled with the remote wilderness's untamed beauty and the Australian outback's scorching heat, where the sun's unrelenting rays baked the earth into a dusty crimson hue. Experienced in wildlife photography, she followed her family into this harsh terrain to capture the place's untamed beauty on camera. Sarah, her spouse, Michael, and their 2 kids, Emma and Jake, had set out on an experience unmatched by anything else. They were now on the outskirts of Katherine, a small town in the Northern Territory, known for being close to the well-known Nitmiluk National Park. Sarah's camera became her constant companion as they strolled through the park's winding trails and breathtaking gorges, capturing the minute details of the old rock formations and the vivid colors of the native flora. But a specific waterhole had caught her attention, tucked away in a quiet park area. The waterhole, a holdover from the prehistoric era, was reportedly home to a wide variety of fauna, among them the powerful saltwater crocodile, a living fossil from the era of the dinosaurs. Sarah saw a chance to capture these ancient predators in their native environment and was not deterred by possible risks. A particularly hot afternoon brought the family to the waterhole, where the soft sound of cicadas and the aroma of eucalyptus filled the air. With her camera ready, Sarah walked excitedly up to the water's edge, her eyes searching the still surface for any movement. Before her eyes, waiting patiently for its next meal, was a massive saltwater crocodile, its scales gleaming like emerald armor, submerged beneath the gloomy depths. After millions of years of evolution, its innate instincts had sharpened, making it an expert at ambush and stealth. Her family watched from a distance, amazed at Sarah's commitment to getting the ideal shot as she edged closer. Sarah leaned forward, her camera focused on the waterhole, and the crocodile struck in that split second. The behemoth emerged from its watery lair with a thunderous burst of water and a gaping maw of sharp teeth, its powerful jaws crushing Sarah's leg to the bone. Like a gunshot, the excruciating cry that broke free of her lips reverberated throughout the outback. The children and Michael were horrified to witness Sarah being forcefully pulled into the water, her attempts at resistance being in vain due to the crocodile's tremendous strength. The once placid waterhole turned into a vortex of flailing limbs and churning water, as Sarah struggled mightily to escape the creature's vice-like hold. For the Williams family, time appeared to stop at that precise moment, their hearts thumping with fear as they saw the unimaginable happen before them. Taking advantage of his strong paternal instincts, Michael searched for anything that could be used as a weapon against the intimidating predator. Emma and Jake clung to each other, their eyes fixed on the terrifying scene before them, their faces scarred with fear. They stood by helplessly as their mother's cries became weaker and weaker by the moment. Michael's mind was racing with fear and determination as he grabbed a sturdy branch and charged toward the water's edge, driven by pure desperation and adrenaline. He threw the makeshift weapon at the crocodile using all the strength he could muster, and it hit its armored hide with a loud thud. The crocodile's hold broke for a split second, giving Sarah the chance to gasp for air, her face twisted in pain and desperation. However, this brief respite was short-lived as the furious reptile intensified its efforts, thrashing its strong tail angrily against the water's surface. Sarah and her husband met eyes in that breathtaking moment, and their gaze spoke a lifetime of love, fear, and the unspoken vow that they would never give up. Michael resumed his assault with improvised weapons with a fresh lease of resolve, each blow motivated by the unwavering will to defend his family. The crocodile's primitive instincts started to falter as the fight weakened its iron hold on Sarah. Seeing her chance, Sarah mustered all her remaining strength, her limbs burning from the effort as she struggled against the crocodile's vice-like jaws. She reached for a branch. Meanwhile, Michael, desperate to help, clasped his hands around the branch and used it as a lever to pry open the crocodile's enormous maw. Sarah wrenched her broken leg free, sending a trail of blood into the swirling water with a sickening crunch of bone, and a scream that ripped through the outback, waded into the shallows and hauled Sarah's battered body towards the safety of the shore. Michael felt both relief and terror in his heart. With tears streaming down their faces, Emma and Jake ran to their mother's side, their tiny hands shaking as they held on to her. The massive crocodile form lingered in the waterhole, staring at the family with a primitive ancient intensity, its reptilian gaze fixed upon them. At that precise moment, the predator and its prey shared a silent understanding of the precarious balance between the wild landscape and the human world. Fearing for Sarah's life, the family's priorities shifted to survival, with their minds racing to devise a plan to get out of the dangerous outback and get Sarah some help. They rushed her to the nearest medical center, where doctors tried as much as possible to tend to her wound and wrapped her leg with a clean bandage. This had set her journey for recovery. Sarah came away from the experience with a deep appreciation for life's fragility and a newfound respect for the wild majesty of the ordeal. Being attacked by a crocodile had made her less obsessed with getting the ideal shot. It served as a stark reminder that even the most skilled photographers were only guests in the territory of these extinct beasts. From the ordeal, the family discovered that their encounter with the crocodile had a lasting impact on them. The scars engraved in their souls would continue to remind them of nature's untamed power and apathy, even after Sarah's wounds healed. With a deep reverence for the wild beauty of the outback and its ferocious inhabitants, the Williams family would often narrate their story of survival in the years that followed. It also gave them a greater appreciation for the unbreakable family ties forged in the furnace of adversity, even though the crocodile attack had left them completely shaken. Because they had overcome the overwhelming force of nature, they had become a symbol of the human spirit's resiliency, a spirit that would bear the scars of their outback nightmare and the lessons they had learned from facing the primordial forces that lurked outside the bounds of civilization. The world's most prestigious surfing competition, the Vans Triple Crown of Surfing, was scheduled in 2015 on the waves of Oahu's renowned North Shore. With their boards ready and eyes trained on the rolling monsters that crashed against the shoreline with thunderous precision, surfers from all over the world had descended upon this idyllic Hawaiian island. One of the competitors was Californian surfer Jake Thompson, a 25-year-old professional known as a rising sports star due to his raw talent and fearless style on the waves. Jake's sun-kissed complexion and tousled blonde hair epitomized the surfer lifestyle, and his life was completely entwined with the tides. The atmosphere was charged with excitement as the competition got underway, and the smell of salt water blended with the applause of those gathered along the shore. As he approached the water's edge with his board tucked under his arm, Jake's eyes were fixed on the horizon where the perfect waves towered, calling out to him to conquer them. He had no idea that an ancient predator was stirring beneath the surface, its icy black eyes focused on the masses of surfers bobbing in the water like bright buoys. Due to its refined instincts from millions of years of evolution, the great white shark, a real ocean apex predator, was attracted to the disturbance. The excitement pumping through Jake was evident as he paddled out into the lineup. He skillfully kicked his legs to get up and ride the first set of waves, which came in a smooth and effortless motion as his board skimmed the water. Jake's every move demonstrated his mastery of the sport as the crowd's roar subsided, and he became engrossed in the rhythm of the waves. However, thanks to its strong tail, the great white shark was moving through the water at a terrifyingly fast speed beneath the surface. Its keen senses honed to pick up even the smallest disturbance in the water, which had locked onto the surfer splashing and paddling, setting off an innate reaction to investigate. Jake saw the world around him turn into a tunnel of sun and churning water as he dove into the mouth of a particularly big wave. At that very moment when he was most exposed, the unimaginable occurred. Something huge and dark rose out of the darkness, snarling with open jaws as it lunged toward Jake's bare leg. With frightening ease, the great white shark's razor-sharp teeth tore through flesh and bone in a blur of movement. As its strong jaws clenched tighter, ripping at Jake's flesh, his body jerked violently, drowning out his cries of agony. The once pristine waters erupted into a crimson foam, filling the air with the distinct smell of blood. The attack was being carried out right in front of the horrified onlookers on the shore. With their rescue boards slicing through the waves, lifeguards rushed to the injured surfer. Competitors with terrified expressions paddled frantically towards the scene, their minds fixed on a single last-ditch effort to save a friend and fellow surfer from the jaws of death. With shock and pain clouding his mind, Jake used his strength to fight back. In a desperate attempt to free himself, he struck out at the massive shark, his fists pounding its sleek gray skin. The great white's hold was unbreakable, its instincts heightened by the blood in the water. Just as hope seemed lost, Jake's fellow surfers arrived, using their boards as battering rams against the shark. Distracted, the great white thrashed violently, briefly releasing Jake's mangled leg. The lifeguards came charging in at that split second, their strong blows sending them flying toward Jake's mangled body. They hauled him onto a rescue board with a coordinated effort, their expressions somber as they realized how badly injured he was. The great white shark lingered in the water as they raced back towards the shore, its inky black eyes displaying no emotion or regret. Silent and a living representation of the ocean's raw, relentless power, it had changed the lives of those who had ventured into its territory. Medical personnel raced to Jake's aid on the beach, putting an end to his bleeding and stabilizing his condition with practiced precision. After realizing the full impact of his encounter with the apex predator, the once vibrant surfer lay pale and motionless, his eyes glazed with shock. Following his ordeal, Jake's story drew significant media attention and widespread public interest in the following days and weeks. He survived against all odds, and his story touched people worldwide as a sobering reminder of how fleeting human existence is in the face of nature's unchecked might. Many surgeries and demanding physical therapy sessions characterized Jake's long and difficult road to recovery. Despite everything, though, his unwavering spirit persisted because of a deep-seated desire to reclaim the waves that had once served as his playground. As Jake recovered emotionally and physically, he struggled to accept his newfound reverence for the sea and its creatures. Once a mysterious, far-off animal, the great white shark had come to represent a visceral reality, constantly reminding us that even the most accomplished and experienced surfers were only temporary guests in the homes of these ancestors. However, Jake's love for the sport didn't lessen despite the trauma he had experienced. His near-death experience had only made him more determined to face his fears head-on and take back his place among the waves. Jake set out on a journey that would push the boundaries of his physical and mental strength with the help of his fellow surfers and the unwavering love of his family. Every paddle out into the lineup was an act of defiance, a declaration that the scars on his body would not define him, a fight against the demons that lurked in the recesses of his mind. Jake had gained a newfound humility and respect for the ocean's raw power, even though the great white shark that had drastically changed his life path continued to loom large in the background of his thoughts. Since his steadfast courage and tenacity had seen him through the worst of his ordeal, these qualities ultimately defined him rather than his fear of the predator. The year was 2011. An astounding assemblage of aquatic creatures inhabited the immaculate waters of the San Juan Islands, tucked away in the center of the Pacific Northwest. Here, pods of orcas, the top predators in the ocean, roamed free amid the maze-like islands and inlets, their eerie cries resonating above the water like age-old melodies. Marine biologist Dr. Emily Foster spent her life delving into the secrets of these magnificent animals, and she chose to do so in these waters. Her research ship, the Oceanic Explorer, had become a well-known sight in the area as its scientists and researchers diligently recorded the habits and migration patterns of the local orca populations. Emily and her crew left Friday Harbor on a brisk fall morning focused on a particularly interesting pod acting aggressively in strange ways. A strong male orca was among the group, its enormous dorsal fin slicing through the water like a black dagger, a vivid reminder of these animals' unadulterated strength. Emily's sharp eyes peered over the horizon as the Oceanic Explorer approached the pod's last known location, her mind whirling with ideas and conjectures regarding the orca's behavior. At that moment, she noticed the distinctive mist spouts rising to the surface, indicating the pod's presence. Emily skillfully maneuvered the research vessel closer, while her team hurriedly set up their hydrophones and underwater cameras. To solve the mysteries beneath the surface, it was important to track the orca's movements and vocalizations by closely monitoring them, while also cataloging their sounds. But as the team approached, they were met with a startling sight. The large male orca displayed new wounds and scars, suggesting it had recently become entangled in fishing nets or other marine debris. When Emily understood the possible repercussions of such an encounter, her heart fell, and she made assumptions about the orca's unpredictable behavior. Determined to collect as much information as possible without upsetting the already agitated animal, she gave her team orders with steely determination. She had no idea that her presence alone had started a series of events that would push her survival instincts to the absolute limit. As it approached, the male orca abruptly turned its massive bulk toward the oceanic explorer, its inky black eyes fixed upon the intruders with an unmistakable fury. The once calm waters erupted into chaos as the orca lunged forward, its strong tail accelerating at an incredible rate. The giant struck the side of the research ship, sending shockwaves through the hull and hurling Emily and her crew around in fright. Emily and her crew watched in dismay as this happened. The oceanic explorer tipped dangerously to one side, water leaking through the massive hole caused by the orca's attack. Alarms went off, and equipment clattered to the deck. Emily was thrown overboard amid the chaos, her body falling into the frigid waters as the damaged research ship sank below the surface. Her lungs burned for air as she was trapped in a world of muffled silence for a terrifying moment due to the shock of the freezing temperature. She broke the surface, gasping and spitting, and it was painfully obvious how serious things were for her. The oceanic explorer vanished, engulfed by the depths, and the resentful male orca was now obsessed with her, a solitary, defenseless victim in its territory. Emily started swimming with a strong and deliberate stroke, trying to get as far away from the furious predator as she could, all while feeling a rush of adrenaline pumping through her body. However, the orca was unrelenting, its massive body effortlessly slicing through the water to close the distance with every passing second. Emily's mind was racing a whirlwind of scientific knowledge and survival techniques. She knew that orcas were social, intelligent animals pursuing their prey with purpose and cooperation. This lone male had deviated from the norm, motivated by pain and rage, and now it was coming after her. Emily knew she had to move quickly as the orca approached her, its enormous jaws opening wide to reveal a maw of razor-sharp teeth. Her fingers numb from the cold water, she reached for the emergency signaling device strapped to her life vest with shaking hands. She turned on the gadget, hoping that by doing so, the nearby Coast Guard station would receive a distress signal in her last-ditch attempt to live. Emily knew that time was running out even as the beacon continued to pulse and transmit her coordinates to the rescue teams. With terrifying ease, the orca parted the waves as it sprang forward, eyes fixed on Emily's struggling body. She was only inches from the water when the predator lunged, its enormous jaws clenching down on the water. Her muscles burned from fighting the relentless currents and the constant threat of the orca's next attack. Emily screamed, concentrating even harder on swimming. The creature circled her like a shark playing with its prey, its powerful tail slapping against the water in a display of dominance as if reveling in her fear. Emily felt weaker as the minutes passed, each seeming to last forever. She felt her body lose heat from the cold, and the orca's unceasing fear weakened her resolve. Her life would be taken by the very animal she had devoted her professional life to studying, and she would perish from the elements if help did not come quickly. The sound of sirens wailing in the distance announced the arrival of the Coast Guard, just when all hope appeared to be lost. The sight of the rescue boats and their crews ready to cut through the waves gave Emily a newfound sense of resolve. Aware of the impending danger, the orca briefly abandoned its chase, its massive body sliding beneath the surface as though deciding what to do next. Emily grabbed hold of the chance, her blows becoming more powerful as she struggled to get closer to the rescue boats. In a desperate final push, she summoned every ounce of her remaining strength, her lungs burning as she propelled herself towards the outstretched hands of the Coast Guard crew. She was hauled aboard with a well-timed heave, and as the adrenaline that had powered her escape finally subsided, her body collapsed onto the deck. Emily took one last eerie look in the direction of the orca's disappearance as the rescue boats left the scene. She realized at that instant the true extent of her opponent's rage, which was motivated by pain and desperation rather than hate. The orca's body was scarred, a stark reminder of the precarious equilibrium between humans and the natural world. The nets and debris had upset this equilibrium, causing the orca's great suffering. In the days and weeks that followed, Emily's terrifying experience catalyzed heightened conservation efforts and public awareness of the harm that human activity causes to marine life. Her narrative of overcoming overwhelming odds to survive struck a chord with people everywhere, acting as a moving reminder that human deeds have the power to weaken even the most powerful predators. The experience permanently altered Emily's soul. After witnessing the orca's raw strength and primal rage, she had a newfound respect for the animals she had devoted her life to researching. And because the orcas had shown her the true cost of human indifference, she knew her commitment to protecting these wonders would not falter as she looked across the vast Pacific. A group of friends seeking adventure were drawn to the Bahamas in 2014 by their pristine waters, which acted as if they were sirens calling. Experienced diver Lisa Kendall, who loved diving, persuaded her closest friends, Mark, Jenna, and Alex, to go diving with her for a week in the Abaco Islands. The group was in awe of the breathtaking beauty around them as their chartered boat skimmed across the calm waves. The comparatively untouched paradise known as the Abaco Islands was home to some of the Caribbean's most pristine coral reefs and a wide variety of marine life. As they anchored close to the well-known Pelican Cays, Lisa, the enthusiastic traveler, could not contain her excitement. She had long wanted to visit this reef system, which was well known for its colorful coral gardens and profusion of tropical fish. After properly inspecting their equipment and reviewing their dive plan, the four friends descended into the blue depths. The captivating kaleidoscope of colors and marine life greeted them as they glided through the water. With her mask tucked in tight, Lisa couldn't help but smile when a school of iridescent angelfish scuttled by her, their vivid colors reflecting in the filtered sunlight. Jenna laughed softly as Mark, ever the joker, imitated the movements of a passing parrotfish. Awestruck by the fragility and utter beauty of this underwater world, the group continued to explore deeper into the reef. Ever the naturalist, Lisa pointed out various species to her friends, her excitement palpable even through the regulator clamped between her teeth. At that moment, Lisa noticed a flash of silver scuttling between the coral formations at a breakneck pace. With a furrowed brow, she observed the movement and attempted to identify the culprit. The sleek, torpedo-shaped creature abruptly materialized out of the darkness, revealing itself as a massive barracuda, a vicious predator with a reputation for aggression. With a startling intensity, Lisa's heart rate increased while she observed the immobile barracuda staring at her with a cold, unwavering eye. Lisa automatically signaled her friends to let them know there might be a threat. Mark, who has always been cautious, quickly drew the group closer together while keeping an eye out for any potential threats. For a moment, the barracuda seemed content to observe its powerful jaws opening and closing from a distance in a silent display of dominance. Lisa started to back away cautiously, her nerves tingling. Drawn to her reflective dive gear, the barracuda's attitude abruptly changed. The predator surged forward with a sudden burst of speed, its silver body cutting through the water like a razor-sharp blade. Lisa barely had time to react as the barracuda's jaws clamped down on her upper arm, its razor-sharp teeth slicing through her wetsuit and flesh with horrifying ease, leaving her with deep wounds. Lisa's body seized in pain, a cloud of crimson exploding from the wound as she let out a muffled scream. As their friend was attacked, Mark, Jenna, and Alex watched in horror. A rush of adrenaline-fueled action soon followed their initial shock. Drawing on his years of diving experience, Mark immediately positioned himself between Lisa and the barracuda, his dive knife ready. The barracuda, undeterred by Mark's protective stance, seemed intent on finishing its attack. As it readied itself, its formidable jaws parted to expose rows of razor-sharp teeth. In a split-second decision, Mark lashed out with his knife, the blade slicing through the water and grazing the barracuda's flank. The predator recoiled, its cold black eyes betraying a momentary flicker of confusion. It retreated, appearing to have conceded defeat. Taking advantage of the brief respite, Jenna and Alex quickly moved to Lisa's side, their hands applying pressure to the gaping wound in a desperate attempt to stem the flow of blood. Lisa's face was etched with pain, her eyes wide and pleading as she fought to remain conscious. Mark gestured for them to start climbing, his movements slow and methodical as the Barracuda regrouped. With Lisa supported between Jenna and Alex, the group began their slow, painful journey towards the surface, their eyes darting back and forth, ever vigilant for the slightest hint of the Barracuda's return. The minutes seemed to stretch into hours as they rose through the azure depths, the weight of their tanks and the fear of another attack weighing heavily upon them. Lisa's breathing grew increasingly labored, her mask fogging with each pained exhalation. After what seemed like an eternity, they finally surfaced in the warm Bahamas air, a welcome respite from their faces dusted with salt. Mark called out for help with a hoarse voice and quickly gestured to their dive boat. The crew moved quickly to save Lisa, bringing the injured group aboard and launching themselves at her. The extent of Lisa's injuries was painfully obvious, as the boat captain radioed for emergency medical assistance. Her upper arm and shoulder were severely injured by the Barracuda attack, revealing slashes that were bleeding profusely and showing hints of muscle and bone. The adrenaline that had fueled Lisa's survival instincts started to wear off, leaving her face pale and her eyes glassy with shock. The dive gear was lying in a heap on the deck as the group gathered around their injured friend, counting down the minutes. As they awaited the arrival of the medical evacuation team, Mark held Lisa tightly, his hands still stained with her blood, and spoke encouraging words to her. Jenna and Alex, their eyes haunted by the attack, could only watch in disbelieving silence as their minds replayed the horrific events. Relief washed over the group when the rescue helicopter finally appeared on the horizon, its blades slicing through the air. Lisa was quickly loaded into the helicopter, her pale form vanishing inside as it took off toward the nearest hospital. In the days and weeks that followed, Lisa underwent multiple surgeries and physical therapy sessions. Her unwavering will to return to the underwater world that had nearly taken her life kept her resilient spirit strong throughout her recovery, though the scars that marred her body would forever remind her of that fateful day. Lisa wore them as badges of honor, a testament to her resilience and unwavering respect for the ocean and its inhabitants. The sharp edge had etched a path of understanding, teaching Lisa and her companions that true admiration for the environment requires a balanced measure of prudence and reverence. They knew that their love of diving would endure as they looked out over the pristine waters of the Bahamas, tempered by the lessons they had learned from their encounter with the most ferocious predator in the ocean. In 2016, those who dared to venture into the enigmatic depths of Puget Sound, tucked away in the heart of the Pacific Northwest, were rewarded with chilly waters. Among the adventurous souls drawn to these cold currents was Tom Wilkins, an avid recreational diver with a thirst for discovery. On a crisp autumn morning, Tom suited up on the sun-dappled shores of Edmonds, a quaint coastal town known for its abundant marine life and access to rich diving spots. His excitement grew as he fastened his mask and tank, anticipating today's dive, which promised a face-to-face encounter with the enormous Pacific octopus, one of the area's most mysterious creatures. Due to their bulbous heads and 8 strong tentacles, Tom had been fascinated by these enormous cephalopods for a considerable time. Tales of their intelligence and cunning had fueled his curiosity, and that day he would have the chance to witness one of these remarkable beings in its natural habitat. Checking his equipment and diving with his friend Sarah at his side, Tom dove into the emerald green depths, feeling the cold embrace of the Puget Sound overtake his body. As they descended, the world above faded away, replaced by a realm of muted hues and dancing beams of sunlight that pierced the gloom. It wasn't long before Tom's keen eyes spotted their quarry, a massive octopus, its mottled red and white body clinging to the rocky outcropping of an underwater cliff face. The creature was amazing in size, even up close, its tentacles languidly flowing with the mild currents. With a slow and deliberate movement to avoid startling the octopus, Tom approached it cautiously and respectfully while giving Sarah a signal. As he drew closer, he marveled at the octopus's intelligent eyes, which seemed to regard him with an equal measure of curiosity and wariness. For several breathless moments, man and beast regarded each other, their silent exchange a study of the primal connection between all living things. Tom felt a surge of wonder, his chest swelling with the thrill of being in such proximity to this magnificent predator. Nevertheless, the octopus's manner changed as he began losing himself in its hypnotic grace. Its previously languid tentacles suddenly tensed, coiling like thick ropes of muscle as its eyes narrowed with a predatory gleam. In a split second, the octopus struck its massive tentacles, unfurling with blinding speed as they lashed out towards Tom. Caught off guard by the sudden attack, Tom barely had time to react as the powerful appendages wrapped around his body, constricting him in a vice-like grip. Tom's mask was ripped from his face, and he found himself staring into the octopus's cold, unblinking eyes as it dragged him toward the safety of its lair, a dark, foreboding crevice in the rocky outcropping. His lungs burned for air as he thrashed against the octopus's iron grip, his limbs flailing uselessly as he was pulled deeper into the gloom. Sarah, her eyes wide with horror, rushed to Tom's aid, her dive knife drawn as she hacked at the octopus's tentacles. But the creature's strength was immense, and for every tentacle severed, two more seemed to take their place, coiling around Tom's struggling form with renewed vigor. As the darkness of the lair enveloped them, Tom felt a surge of primal terror gripping his heart. He was no longer the observer but the prey, his life now hanging in the balance as he battled against the octopus's relentless onslaught. Using every ounce of his strength, Tom fought back, clawing at the thick, muscular tentacles that bound him. He could feel the octopus's powerful beak snapping mere inches from his face, its razor-sharp edges poised to deliver a fatal blow. In desperate self-preservation, Tom reached for his dive knife, his fingers closing around the hilt as he slashed at the tentacles with fierce abandon. The octopus recoiled, its grip momentarily loosening as Tom freed himself. With his lungs burning and limbs trembling from exertion, Tom kicked towards the safety of the open water, his eyes locked on the faint glimmer of sunlight that beckoned from above. Behind him, he could hear the octopus thrashing in its lair, its tentacles lashing out in fury at having lost its prey. As Tom broke the surface, he gulped in precious lungfuls of air, his body racked with tremors as the adrenaline that had fueled his survival instincts began to ebb away. Sarah was at his side in an instant, her face etched with concern as she helped guide him back to the safety of their dive boat. In the days and weeks that followed, Tom's harrowing encounter with the giant Pacific octopus became a legend among the local diving community. His tale of narrowly escaping the creature's clutches was a stark reminder of the raw power and unpredictability that lurked beneath the waves. But for Tom, the experience was more than just a harrowing brush with danger. It was a profound lesson in respect for the natural world and the delicate balance between predator and prey. The scars that marred his body, faint reminders of the octopus's powerful tentacles, became badges of honor, a testament to his indomitable spirit and newfound appreciation for these incredible creatures' majesty. And though the waters of Puget Sound would forever hold a hint of lingering trepidation, Tom's love for diving grew stronger, fueled by a burning desire to explore the mysteries that lay beneath the surface with a renewed sense of caution and reverence. Ultimately, the tentacles of terror had carved a path of understanding that taught Tom that true respect for the natural world came with a healthy dose of humility and awe. He also knew that his adventures would go on, but with the lessons he had learned from his close encounter with one of the ocean's most dangerous predators, he looked out across the calm waters of Puget Sound. Arriving at the Whitsunday Islands in the Great Barrier Reef for their much-awaited tropical getaway, the Velasco family from Madrid arrived on a brilliantly sunny day in early April 2007. Manuel Mint and Lucia Graval had reserved an expedition package with multiple guided snorkeling tours to explore the colorful underwater world teeming with marine life. Their first snorkeling tour was scheduled for the following morning at Hardy Reef, one of the area's most renowned snorkeling spots. Their guide, named Jack, a cheerful man, gave instructions on safety and snorkeling etiquette as the family's boat approached the mooring line. He reminded them not to touch anything, as many underwater creatures could become dangerous if provoked. The Velasco family and other tourists descended into the glistening waters after Jack guided them to the edge. The schools of exotic fish darting around them and the kaleidoscope of colors from the coral astounded the Velasco family. Their 12-year-old daughter, Maria, was particularly enthralled and swam forward to get a closer look at a bright purple sea fan. Suddenly, Jack raised his whistle to attract everyone's attention. Maria had drifted too close to the reef, so Jack animatedly waved her back toward the group. As she turned to rejoin them, her fin kicked up sand and debris, disturbing a camouflaged sea snake on the bottom. With blinding speed, the 2-meter-long banded sea snake struck, sinking its fangs into her shoulder before she even realized what had happened. Maria thrashed, shocked, and in excruciating pain as the strong poison shot through her. While continuously blowing his whistle to indicate an emergency, Jack swiftly dragged the terrified girl away from the agitated snake. As Maria gasped for air and her face twisted in pain, the other snorkelers stared in horror. Jack calculated that they would need to swim quickly to reach the boat in at least 20 minutes. He realized they needed to move rapidly to save Maria and treat her with the anti-venom kept aboard. As they watched their daughter's condition worsen, Manuel and Lucia were gripped by fear and clung to one another. Jack gave Maria a firm grip and kicked her hard to start dragging her in the direction of the boat, gesturing for the others to follow closely behind. The group moved through the warm waters of the reef, the lively atmosphere now tinged with fear, and every minute seemed to drag on forever. Maria's breathing became dangerously shallow, and her eyes rolled back as she fell unconscious. The boat appeared in front of them just when it appeared that they might not make it to it in time. When he noticed the distress signal, the captain ordered emergency medical assistance immediately over the radio as the crew got ready to bring Maria on board. Jack used the last of his diminishing energy to lift Maria over the edge of the boat, where the crew immediately began to give him a cardiopulmonary resuscitation and anti-venom. As they watched their daughter's lifeless body, Lucia sobbed uncontrollably, and Manuel held onto the rails while tears streamed down his face. Maria's eyes fluttered open after what felt like an eternity, her breathing getting stronger by the moment as the anti-venom entered her body. When the emergency medical personnel showed up to stabilize Maria and get her ready for his transfer to the hospital, the family gave each other hugs. The Velasco family was stunned that such a beautiful but deadly creature could inflict such trauma and terror in an instant. During her recovery, Maria learned to respect and be cautious of all marine life. She understood that while the vast ocean holds great wonder, it also poses real threats to those who venture into its depths. This experience left her with a profound appreciation for the delicate balance between admiration and caution in the natural world.